Hi everybody, Playtendoguy here, and welcome to my review of Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. Considering the Switch has been a huge success and already surpassing the Wii U's lifetime sales in less than a year, Nintendo has rightfully been digging through their archives of brilliant Wii U games and bringing them to the Switch. So far we've seen Pokken Tournament, Mario Kart 8 and Bayonetta 1 and 2 to name but a few making the Switch. But now Nintendo are bringing their Dynasty Warriors Zelda spin-off, Hyrule Warriors, to the Switch for shockingly its third release. But is it still as fun as it was first time playing it? Let's find out. Originally released all the way back in 2014, Hyrule Warriors was certainly one of the strangest games to come out on Nintendo for a while, but it was a very enjoyable if flawed game. The game received its second iteration on the 3DS in 2016, which included all the previously released DLC as well as some new quality life improvements that made for a much better game. Alas, it was on the 3DS, and while the new 3DS handhelds could just about handle the game, the original 3DS models did struggle a lot to keep up with the action. But nevertheless, Koei Tecmo has decided to give the game one final release with Definitive Edition, and it certainly does live up to the title. The main part of the gameplay in Hyrule Warriors is hacking and slashing thousands of weak identical enemies and occasionally taking on a boss fight that requires some strategy. And while that may sound rather boring, it's actually really fun, frantic and stupidly addictive. Most stages see you in a big battlefield with plenty of keeps and outposts, and the main objective of each stage is to capture all the outposts and keeps while killing anything in your way. As you capture keeps, your sides get stronger with more allies on the field. You normally get other objectives throughout the stage, such as protecting or escorting an ally, destroying a bomb tube that's advancing on your keep, or stopping a wave of strong enemies taking your keeps. It's a rather simple stuff, but very addicting. The gameplay is certainly much more Dynasty Warriors than Zelda. Not to say there aren't no Zelda gameplay tropes included here. There are many Zelda tools like bombs and arrows included here, and these are used to help spice up the combat whilst also helping you find secrets in the levels as well as helping you out in boss battles. The combat sees you pressing primarily two buttons to make different combos to kill enemies. At first it does seem quite basic, but once you start upgrading your characters and you gain new combos, and the combos do get kinda deep. But there is certainly no denying that the game is very repetitive in the tasks that you do and in the combat, and for some it will certainly be a put-off, but for me, honestly, I really enjoyed it. As for the content in the game, there's a huge amount to do here. First up you have your main story mode called Legends mode. This mode tells the same story as the previous games, which sees characters from many different Zelda time periods joining up to defeat a dark new threat. It's a daft storyline that really doesn't make much sense, but it's still a fun excuse to see all these different Zelda characters teaming up. The story mode consists of 18 different story scenarios as well as a bunch of DLC scenarios based on the Wind Waker, Linkle and Seer, and these are your simple capture the keep and kill the bosses sort of levels and do a great way of teaching you the basics of the game. To complete the story mode as well as the extra scenarios, you're talking around a good 10 hours plus, which is pretty decent, and considering there's harder difficulties and secrets in each stages, there's a fair bit to go back to. Next up is Adventure mode, and this is where the real meat of the game is. This sees you with an overview grid of the original Zelda map, and each space is a challenge to complete. There's a good variety of challenges here to keep you entertained, but the best bit about the Adventure mode is the cornucopia of unlockables to nab. From characters, weapons, heart containers, and extra costumes, there's hordes to unlock, and completing the first Adventure map mode will take you a very long time. All the DLC Adventure Mode maps are also included here, and these are based on many other different Zelda games like The Wind Waker, Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess, to name but a few. And all these maps have their own gimmick to them, representative of what game the map is based on. Take Majora's Mask for example, you have to keep an eye on the moon and prevent it from falling, to the link between world maps, which sees you jumping between Hyrule and Lorule. Adventure mode has also seen a nice quality of life improvement in the item card shop, as when you complete a certain level you get an item card which you can use to find secrets in the adventure mode maps. The thing is, with the previous version, if you ran out of a certain card you'd have to complete a certain level all over again to get said card. But now with the item card shop you can just buy it and it does save you a lot of time. Another mode included in the game is Challenge mode, which sees certain characters going through levels with certain constrictions and challenges to see if you can get a high enough score. These levels do increase in difficulty and does provide a nice bit of challenge. Also housed in the challenge mode is Ganon's Fury, which is a fun mode which sees you playing as the humongous Ganon as you try to complete various and ever harder challenges. It's certainly a very enjoyable mode that's well worth a go. It's just a shame Ganon doesn't have his own skill tree. Returning from the Legends version of the game is My Fairy mode, and in this mode you can customise fairies you find on the battlefield with new powers and globes to help you in battle. It's a bit of a Tamagotchi sort of mode that sees you feeding, teaching and styling them to make them more powerful. It's an okay throwaway mode, but it's not needed to fully enjoy the game. Time to talk about the characters now, and wow, there is absolutely hordes here. You have all the characters from the base Wii U game, the DLC from the Wii U games, the new characters from Legends and the DLC characters from Legends to make up astounding 29 playable characters. Wow, 31 if you count the two giant characters in Ganon's Fury mode. Unfortunately, there aren't any new characters with this version, which is a shame, as it would have been nice if there were some Breath of the Wild characters in it. But at least there's playable characters from pretty much every Zelda game, which is something the recent Fire Emblem Warriors didn't do. The characters here range from Link, Zelda and Ganondorf to Linkle, the female version of Link, to classic characters such as Tingle, Skull Kid and Midna. It's also nice to see Ravio, Yuga, Toon Zelda and Marin from various portable Zelda games making the cut. It would have been nice if Groose from Skyward Sword and Linebeck from Phantom Hourglass was included in the roster, but it's still a great roster nevertheless. As for new things in the Switch port, we have two new costumes in the Breath of the Wild costumes for both Link and Zelda, which are both nice, but as I said before, a couple of characters from the game included in the roster would have been nice. The game also includes co-op multiplayer for each mode, and while there isn't online multiplayer, you can still play the game cooperatively via the tabletop mode, which is nice even if the screen is a bit too small for two players. Most Wii U ports to Switch have been your typical 1080p and stable frame rate boost, and to be fair that's all what they really needed, as they were great looking games all those years ago and still look great now. But Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U was a bit of a murky looking game, and the 3DS version suffered from being on less powerful handheld. But thankfully with the definitive edition we are now seeing the best looking version to date. The game looks noticeably better than its Wii U counterpart with better textures, and the whole game looks much brighter, which is great. Another nice surprise is that the game is borrowing a leaf out of the recent Fire Emblem Warriors book by allowing the game to run at a near 60 FPS whilst playing dock. It's shocking to play the game with such a nice smooth frame rate, and it does make you wonder how you coped with 30 FPS. Handheld mode obviously takes a fair hit. The game runs at a 30 FPS lock on the Switch's screen whilst also having a resolution under 720p. It still looks great even without the 60 FPS boost, but the frame rate does drop quite badly at times when the action gets heavy. But bar that, handheld is still a great way to play. Sound in the game is still a pleasure for the ears, featuring a huge list of classic Zelda tunes and loads of rock remixes of classic Zelda tunes as well, and it all makes for a great and memorable soundtrack that you will like to listen to time after time again. Conclusion time now, and whilst this is the third iteration of the game, it is certainly the best one out there. It's a game with a huge cornucopia of content to play with loads of unlockables that will take you hundreds of hours to 100%. Yes, the combat can be repetitive, but it has a certain charm to it, and with the quality of life improvements that Legends brought in, it makes the game much more strategic. I would give Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition a 9 out of 10 with the title of brilliant. I would say if you've never played any of the Hyrule Warriors games before, unlike the Zelda franchise, get it. If you have played one or both of the previous versions and enjoyed it, then you probably know whether you want to get this game or not. Anyway, thank you for watching my review, like, rate and subscribe, and until next time, happy gaming. Bye!